Have you ever wondered what happens to a god who becomes the keeper of every story ever told? Or what kind of nightmare would rise if someone tried to erase those stories completely? Because the moment Loki took his seat upon the branches of Yggdrasil, becoming the god of stories, he sensed something shifting, something ancient, something filled with the cold precision of doom. From his eternal vantage point, he watched timelines weave and unweave like silver rivers forming a cosmic sea. And across that boundless expanse, he felt a pulse, a disruption, a knot tightening in the great loom of existence. It was faint at first, like a whisper behind reality's walls, but it grew sharper, stronger, unmistakable. Doctor Doom had found the destiny loom, not a legend, not a metaphor. The original device that once wove the first layer of the multiverse, a machine older than gods, titans, or time. Loki realized in a single breath that Doom wasn't just rewriting his own fate, he was preparing to rewrite them all. For a storyteller, this was death, not of body but of purpose. Doom wasn't trying to win, he was trying to erase. At once Loki knew he could not face this alone. Even a god of infinite tales required allies who understood the strange shapes of fate, the unpredictable edges of possibility. So he reached across the branches of Yggdrasil and plucked at the threads where his variants existed. One by one they appeared, not summoned, but invited by the very story he held together. Classic Loki, robes worn but power undimmed. Kid Loki, carrying the sharp curiosity only a young trickster could wield. Alligator Loki, chaotic and surprisingly perceptive. Boastful Loki, hammer raised in eternal confidence. And Sylvie, the one variant Loki trusted even when he doubted himself. But he did not call them to fight Doom directly. That would be too simple, too predictable, and nothing predictable ever defeated Doom. Instead, Loki whispered a mission to each: find the Nexus threads. 5 cosmic knots hidden across different universes, threads that weaken the influence of destiny itself. If Doom gained control over the loom, these threads would be the only things that could limit him. Each Loki variant stepped into a different universe, unaware that their personal stories were about to collide with dangers that mirrored their deepest fears. While his variants scattered, Loki watched the threads of Earth 616 tremble like strings on a thunderstruck harp. Word spread through the timelines like wildfire. Doctor Doom was planning something impossible, something unthinkable. He aimed to fuse all realities, every universe, every version of existence into a single creation he alone controlled. A Doomverse. The Avengers gathered in disbelief as readings across the cosmos spiked beyond anything they had seen since the Infinity Stones were first forged. Doctor Strange traced the surge to the shadows between universes. Wanda felt the psychic tremors of millions of alternate selves collapsing into silence. Tony Stark, now an AI, yet still carrying the spark of his old brilliance, detected the signature of technology older than physics itself. Thor felt the branches of the world tree tremble. And just as panic started to take root, Loki stepped through a ripple of green light and appeared before them. Not smiling, not scheming, simply present, carrying the weight of every story ever lived. They didn't trust him, not yet. But he looked at them with an honesty rare for a god of lies and said, "I'm not here to trick you. I'm here to save the story, because if Doom writes it, half of you will never even be born." The Avengers, wary but desperate, agreed to listen. Loki led them beyond physical space into a realm none of them had seen before, a dimension woven from the raw fibers of narrative itself. It was neither light nor shadow, neither past nor present. It was the story reality, the place where tales took shape before becoming timelines. Here Doom stood waiting, not armored, not triumphant, calm, certain. His power glowed with the unnatural shimmer of beyonder energy, bending the story reality around him like a mirror reflecting infinite possibilities. Loki understood instantly. Doom had reached a point where he no longer needed brute force. He could rewrite his own destiny at will while shredding the destinies of others. Their battle began in silence. No weapons, no fists, just stories colliding. Doom tried to erase Loki from the narrative entirely, removing the trickster from every timeline simultaneously. Loki countered by trapping Doom in a loop of his own past, forcing him to relive each step that led him to this moment. But Doom broke free with terrifying ease. Loki rewrote the ending of Doom's life. Doom rewrote its beginning. They clashed like authors fighting over the same book, each paragraph shifting, mutating, rewriting itself. And for the first time since ascending the throne of Yggdrasil, Loki felt fear. He escaped the collapsing battlefield of story reality with only shreds of his divine composure left. He returned to Yggdrasil's branches, once vibrant and endlessly flowing, but now flickering, dimming, unraveling. His power weakened. His confidence fractured. His story, once limitless, felt like it was closing in on itself, suffocating him within a destiny he could no longer control. When Sylvie found him, he was nearly transparent, fading into the tapestry he once commanded. She approached quietly, grounding him with the steadiness she always carried. She didn't comfort him with lies or hope or promises. Instead, she spoke a truth so sharp it sliced through his despair like a blade. "You're the god of stories, Loki, but you forgot to write your own." That single line unraveled the chains Doom had placed on his mind. Loki realized he had been so focused on protecting the timelines that he had stopped evolving, stopped dreaming, stopped being Loki. Doom wasn't stronger because he had Beyonder energy. Doom was stronger because he had purpose. And Loki had spent so long maintaining stories that he had forgotten to craft one worth fighting for. With Sylvie's revelation echoing through him, Loki stepped deeper into Yggdrasil than any being had before. He passed its roots and branches and entered its core, the primal nexus where every story originated. Here, time didn't flow, it breathed. Reality didn't stretch, it pulsed. And within that shimmering heart, Loki made a decision that would transform the very nature of his existence. He allowed the tree to read him, to merge with his essence, to integrate every version of Loki that had ever lived or would ever live. The process was agonizing, beautiful, infinite. When he emerged, he was no longer merely the god of stories. He had become the archivist, the eternal guardian who recorded, protected, and shaped all narratives. His eyes held thousands of futures at once. His voice echoed with the layered cadence of countless Lokis. With a touch, he strengthened the destinies of Avengers across realities, anchoring them so Doom couldn't erase them with a single stroke of the loom. He could bend reality like a sculptor shaping clay, yet never break it. The archivist was not a trickster, not a tyrant. He was the keeper of meaning. But even the archivist could not ignore the tremor that shook all realities when Doom activated the Destiny Loom. Across the multiverse, stars flickered like candle flames in a storm. Universes folded inward. Memories rewrote themselves faster than they could be lived. The loom began stitching together every timeline into one singular reality, a universe built entirely upon Doom's design. The Avengers across hundreds of Earths felt themselves fading, merging, dissolving into a new existence crafted by Doom's perfect order. The Doomverse began to take shape, a cosmos where every choice served Doom's will, every victory celebrated his name, every future led to his eternal throne. Loki watched this devastation unfold, but instead of attacking, he smiled. A small, quiet, dangerous smile. Because he knew something Doom did not. The most powerful stories weren't the ones rewritten. They were the ones reframed. So Loki approached the loom not to change Doom, not to defeat him, but to perform the greatest trick in the history of gods. He slipped a single line into Doom's story. Not a curse, not a weakness, a truth. A ruler who destroys all stories, destroys his own legacy. Doom hesitated. The loom glitched, and the Doomverse collapsed. The Destiny Loom, destabilized by doubt for the first time in its existence, began to unravel violently. Threads snapped, timelines tore open, universes plunged into freefall. It would have taken only seconds for the multiverse to collapse completely. Loki didn't run, didn't fight, didn't plead. He understood what had to be done. The sacrifice that no trick, no illusion, no variant could avoid. He whispered to the tree he loved, the one that had given him purpose, and said, "I will scatter myself as the story." And with that vow, he let his form dissolve into shimmering fragments of emerald light. Each fragment carried a piece of who he was, his chaos, his charm, his sorrow, his mischief, and flew into countless universes to stabilize them. In each world, a Loki appeared. Not the archivist, not the god of stories, just a Loki. Alive, distinct, unaware of the sacrifice that created him. Loki saved the multiverse by becoming the multiverse. And as the last piece of his consciousness faded, all that remained was a soft, universal whisper. Remember me, not as I was, but as I chose to be. When the multiverse settled, Earth 616 returned to normal, or as normal as a reality stitched back together by divine sacrifice could be. The Avengers woke with only the faintest memory of the chaos. A blur, a shadow, a green sparkle at the edge of a dream. Thor, though, felt something deeper. As guardian of the realms, his heart remained attuned to the echoes of cosmic truths. One quiet night, while walking beneath the stars, he saw a small flicker of green floating above his hand like a firefly made of magic. He touched it, and a whisper echoed through his bones. Brother, I'm still here, in stories, in memories, in every trick. Thor didn't cry, but he closed his eyes, and for a moment, the weight of all his battles lifted. Loki had not died. He had not fallen. He had not vanished into the void as so many believed. He had become something far greater than any throne could offer. A presence felt in every tale where hope defied certainty. A spark in every story where chaos brought meaning. A whisper in every universe that believed in second chances. Across worlds, people began to tell stories without knowing why. Stories of a god with green eyes and a quick smile, a trickster who could be villain or hero depending on the day, a protector hiding behind mischief. Children dreamed of him. Warriors swore by him. Sorcerers sensed him. Even those who had never heard the name Loki felt a strange comfort whenever a story didn't go the way destiny insisted it should. The archivist's sacrifice became the unwritten law of the multiverse, that stories must live freely even when their endings are uncertain. And the Avengers, especially Strange and Wanda, began to notice subtle protections woven into reality. Little nudges that prevented catastrophes. Quiet adjustments that saved lives. A guiding hand disguised as coincidence. Loki's legacy endured not in statues or memories, but in the stories that refused to be erased. Yet Doom, whether humbled or haunted, remembered everything. His defeat did not destroy him. It transformed him. For the first time in his life, Doom understood that power without legacy was emptiness. He walked away from the ruins of the Destiny Loom not as a conqueror, but as a man burdened with a story he could no longer control. Loki hadn't defeated him by force. He had defeated him through perspective. And that wound would linger deeper than any scar. The Avengers eventually pieced together the truth. Strange discovered fragments of emerald magic embedded in the fabric of space. Wanda sensed the lingering traces of a consciousness that had spread itself too thin. Thor heard the whisper again on the winds of Vanaheim. They understood, slowly and painfully, what Loki had done. They realized the final irony. Loki, the god who spent his entire life trying to claim a throne, had saved all thrones by giving up his own identity. The multiverse lived because Loki chose not to. Even now, the stories continue. Somewhere in a distant universe, a young Loki wakes with a strange feeling of déjà vu. Somewhere else, Sylvie stares at the stars and feels watched, not ominously, but protectively. And on Earth 616, Thor still looks up, waiting for another green shimmer to appear. A god of stories never truly dies. He simply becomes the tale. I started noticing something strange the moment I rewatched the ending of Loki Season 2. Everyone talks about sacrifice, destiny, or character growth, but the visuals were telling a different story. Loki wasn't sitting on a throne like a king. He was holding reality together like a power core. His body literally replaced the mechanism that once controlled time. That instantly made me question something. If he replaced the machine, then who built the machine? And more importantly, why did it need to exist at all? The TVA always claimed they were preventing war between timelines, but that explanation never felt complete. You don't build a cosmic system that big just to stop arguments between universes. You build it because something worse is inevitable. Something that doesn't conquer realities, but reshapes them. That's when I started connecting Kang, Loki, and the rumored rise of Doom not as separate villains, but as stages of the same cosmic cycle: construction, liberation, and authorship. Let's go back to Kang, or more precisely, He Who Remains. People always call him a conqueror, but when I listened carefully, he never actually bragged about conquering. He talked about preventing variance, preventing infinite chaos, preventing someone worse. Every time he explained pruning timelines, it sounded less like tyranny and more like containment. Imagine infinite realities spawning infinite geniuses. Statistically, one of them will eventually discover how to rewrite existence itself. Not rule it, rewrite it. That's a completely different level of threat. So Kang created the sacred timeline not to dominate reality, but to simplify it. One timeline means limited variables. Limited variables means no unstoppable anomaly. Kang wasn't afraid of heroes, gods, or even multiversal war. He was afraid of a mind that could turn the multiverse into a draft document. A person who would see reality as editable code. And once you look at it that way, pruning wasn't cruelty. It was quarantine. Now comes Loki, and this is where everything changes. Loki doesn't defeat Kang in the traditional sense. He replaces the philosophy. Kang believed control equals survival. Loki believes choice equals meaning. When Loki sits at the end of time holding those branching timelines, he isn't ruling them. He's allowing them to exist. That sounds heroic, but think about the consequence. Kang cut dangerous possibilities before they could grow. Loki protects all possibilities equally. Good, evil, genius, monster, all survive. He gave reality free will. And free will means unpredictable evolution. The multiverse stops being a garden and becomes a jungle. Beautiful, alive, and full of predators waiting to evolve. Loki didn't break the system. He removed its filters. For the first time, every potential future is allowed to mature, including the one Kang spent eternity trying to avoid. So what kind of being needs infinite possibilities to be born? Not a conqueror. Conquerors need armies, not a god. Gods need worship. This would be a thinker, a scientist, a philosopher who sees reality as flawed mathematics. Someone who doesn't want to rule universes, but perfect them. That's where the idea of doom starts fitting like a missing puzzle piece. A mind that looks at existence and decides it shouldn't be random. It should be optimal. Kang trims branches. Loki lets branches grow. Doom studies the entire tree and decides to redesign the forest. The moment infinite timelines became stable under Loki, the conditions for such a mind became inevitable. Kang delayed him. Loki allowed him. Neither created him. They prepared the stage. Now, the controversial idea makes narrative sense. A variant of a brilliant human who gained cosmic understanding but chose control instead of sacrifice. A man who experienced saving the universe once and concluded emotion is inefficiency. Instead of dying for reality, he would improve it permanently. Suddenly, the thematic symmetry clicks. One genius sacrifices himself to preserve flawed existence. Another genius refuses sacrifice and edits existence into perfection. This is why the story wouldn't introduce him as just another villain. He represents a philosophical escalation. Heroes protect the world. Gods defend it. But an author rewrites it. And if someone believes suffering comes from randomness, then merging realities into one perfected structure becomes mercy, not evil. This leads directly into incursions. Multiple universes colliding isn't just instability, it's selection. Imagine timelines being pulled together intentionally, harvested, tested, compressed. Not destroyed randomly, but curated. Heroes would think the multiverse is collapsing. In truth, it's being assembled. A sculptor doesn't destroy marble. He removes what isn't part of the statue. Kang pruned timelines to prevent an author. Loki allowed them to exist freely. The author begins choosing which realities deserve to remain. From our perspective, it's apocalypse. From his perspective, it's editing. That reframes every catastrophe as preparation. Every collapsing universe becomes a draft page being merged into a final manuscript. And then Loki realizes the horrifying part: he isn't being attacked. He's being used. His role as the living temporal battery becomes essential. Without him, infinite timelines decay. With him, they stay stable long enough to combine. The keeper of free will accidentally powers absolute control. The tragedy isn't defeat, it's cooperation without consent. The person who liberated existence becomes the engine that enables its redesign. That would explain why the threat wouldn't try to kill him. Removing him would collapse the project. Instead, the new force would anchor itself to Loki's stability, not overthrowing the balance, but hijacking it. At this point, the story needs perspective, and that's where a surviving Kang variant becomes important. Not as the final villain, but as the one character who understands the pattern. When he warns the heroes they defeated the wrong enemy, it stops sounding arrogant and starts sounding terrified. Kang didn't fear losing power. He feared losing containment. He built a cage around reality because he knew what eventually evolves in infinite possibility. His cruelty was preventative maintenance. And now the cage is open. The battery is active and the author has begun writing. Suddenly, Kang, Loki, and the new figure represent three philosophies rather than three antagonists. I break it down like this. Kang is the mind, order, calculation, stability at any cost. Loki is the heart, freedom, growth, meaning through choice. Doom becomes the will, perfection, direction, destiny enforced upon chaos. None of them are purely evil from their own perspective. Each is solving the same problem differently. Reality produces suffering because it is uncontrolled. Kang limits it. Loki accepts it. Doom eliminates it. The Avengers wouldn't be fighting a person anymore. They'd be choosing a worldview. Is a painful but free existence better than a peaceful, controlled one? That's no longer a superhero conflict. That's philosophy wearing armor. And that's why the final battlefield wouldn't just be cities or planets. It would be a merged reality. A constructed world where fragments of countless universes coexist, not randomly, but intentionally organized. A place designed as proof that order can end tragedy. Some heroes might even see its beauty. For the first time, wars stop. Disasters vanish. Loss disappears. The temptation becomes real. If suffering ends, is freedom worth preserving? The antagonist wouldn't scream about domination. He would calmly argue improvement. That's infinitely more dangerous than rage because logic can convince heroes to hesitate. In the end, the Avengers wouldn't simply defeat someone with power. They would reject an idea. Kang tried to control existence. Loki tried to trust existence. Doom tries to perfect existence. And humanity has to decide whether imperfection is the price of being alive. The multiverse saga stops being about timelines and becomes about authorship, who deserves the right to decide what reality should be. Not the strongest, not the smartest, but the collective will of living beings inside it. When I started connecting the rumors around Avengers Doomsday, something felt different. Every previous Marvel threat wanted chaos, domination, extinction, or balance. But this time, the language around the story keeps hinting toward control, not power for ego, power for order. And that immediately pulled me toward one character, Doctor Doom. In the comics, Doom doesn't see himself as evil. He sees himself as the only being intelligent enough to rule existence responsibly. Now imagine a universe where the multiverse has already started collapsing after countless incursions. Heroes failed to stop it, timelines shattered, realities overlapping. Instead of watching existence die slowly, Doom does the unthinkable. He doesn't stop the collapse. He finishes it, but carefully. He compresses infinite universes into one controlled reality. Not destruction, curation. A museum of existence where every surviving world becomes a territory under a single God Emperor. And that world has a name older comic readers immediately recognize: Battle World. I think the MCU will treat the multiverse like a disease that heroes accidentally spread. Every time timelines were saved, another fracture appeared somewhere else. Eventually, incursions become unstoppable. Worlds collide and annihilate each other. Imagine heroes trying to save people while entire skies rip open, revealing other planets crashing through reality. At this point, the Avengers realize they are not preventing the end. They are delaying it. That is where Doom enters the story, not as an invader, but as the only scientist who understands the final equation. Instead of fighting the destruction, he stabilizes the last fragments. Using cosmic energy and stolen technology from multiple realities, he binds remaining universes into a single layered planet, each region a surviving timeline frozen in time. This is how Battleworld forms. Not a natural world, but a stitched reality held together by one mind constantly calculating. The twist is terrifying. Without Doom focusing his will, existence collapses instantly. The heroes cannot simply defeat him, because he has become the operating system of reality itself. Now here's where I started noticing the emotional angle. The MCU always builds its biggest conflicts around personal connections, not just scale. So Doom cannot just be another distant tyrant. He needs to emotionally destabilize the Avengers. And that's where the shocking detail comes in. His face looks exactly like Iron Man. Not similar. Identical. At first it sounds like a simple multiverse variant twist, but I think it will be deeper than that. Instead of being a Tony variant who turned evil, Doom will be someone who replaced Tony in a reality where Tony died early. A universe where another genius rose to fill the technological vacuum and save the planet repeatedly, eventually learning that heroes always create bigger disasters. He watched worlds perish across dimensions and reached one conclusion: free will is the problem. The Avengers fight for choice. Doom fights for survival. So when heroes see his face, they hesitate. Not because he is Tony, but because he represents the logical endpoint of Tony's philosophy: protect the world at any cost. I believe the film will slowly reveal that Doom studied the legacy of Tony Stark across realities. He saw a pattern. Every universe depended on a single brilliant protector who eventually failed. Sometimes Ultron destroyed Earth. Sometimes Thanos succeeded. Sometimes incursions erased reality entirely. Doom realized individual heroism cannot defend infinity. So he creates a permanent solution. He becomes the one constant across every timeline. By merging universes into Battleworld, he removes randomness. The tragedy is he genuinely thinks he is honoring Stark's sacrifice. In his mind, Tony died buying time for a better protector to rise. Himself. That's why he adopts a similar armored presence and even allows his face to be visible. Not mockery, tribute. To Doom, Tony Stark proved one man can save existence temporarily. Doom intends to do it forever. The horror is the Avengers slowly understand he isn't lying. Billions of lives are alive only because he conquered reality first. As the story unfolds, the heroes start exploring Battleworld and discover regions belonging to destroyed timelines. A city where Ultron won, a kingdom where mutants rule, a wasteland where Earth never formed properly. Every territory preserved in balance under Doom's surveillance. I think this is how the movie will visually explain the multiverse aftermath without long exposition. Each area shows a past failure, and each failure strengthens Doom's argument. Without control, existence collapses. The Avengers realize defeating him could restart incursions instantly. This creates the real dilemma. The villain is holding reality hostage, but also holding it together. I imagine a scene where characters calculate probability and see that removing Doom causes universal extinction within seconds. Suddenly, the story shifts from battle to philosophy. Do heroes protect freedom if it risks total annihilation, or accept a tyrant to guarantee survival? Doom doesn't fight to kill them. He fights to convince them. The Tony connection becomes even darker when memories start surfacing. Because I think Doom's face isn't coincidence or genetics, it's reconstruction. Doom intentionally modeled himself after Stark using multiversal data. He studied countless Tonys and concluded people trust familiar saviors. By resembling a known protector archetype, populations accept his rule more easily. The Avengers feel manipulated because he weaponized grief. But Doom counters with brutal honesty. Symbols matter more than truth. Humanity follows figures, not philosophies. He simply optimized hope. This transforms the face reveal into psychological warfare. Every time someone looks at him, they remember sacrifice, heroism, loss. They hesitate again. And hesitation allows Doom to maintain order. The Avengers must emotionally detach from Tony's image to oppose him. The movie's tension becomes internal rather than physical. They are not just fighting Doom, they are fighting what Tony meant to them. Eventually, I think we will learn Doom didn't just create Battleworld alone. He used fragments of cosmic entities and broken timelines to forge a throne that stabilizes reality. He sits at the center, constantly calculating probability branches, preventing collisions before they happen. Remove him, and infinite timelines instantly try to occupy the same space again. So the Avengers search for another solution. Replace the system instead of destroying it. But who could hold that responsibility? No single hero has enough knowledge or willpower. That's when Doom explains why he chose this burden. Not because he wanted power, but because he was the only one willing to abandon morality for survival. Heroes always hesitate. Gods don't. And to maintain existence, someone must become a god permanently. The terrifying implication emerges: the universe may actually require a tyrant. The emotional climax likely revolves around the Avengers trying to reach the humanity buried inside Doom. Because if he truly admires Stark's ideals, then part of him believes in choice too. They challenge him with a paradox. Tony saved people by trusting them to live freely. Doom saves them by removing that freedom. Both aim to protect life, but only one preserves meaning. This shakes him because Battleworld proves survival, not happiness. People live safely yet stagnate, unable to evolve or create unexpected futures. Doom preserved existence, but killed possibility. For the first time, he questions whether preventing collapse erased the reason existence mattered. That internal conflict weakens his control. Incursions begin forming again. The heroes realize they don't need to overpower him. They need him to choose differently. In the final theory, I connect all clues. The Avengers won't defeat Doom in a traditional fight. They will convince him to release control and share it. Instead of one ruler stabilizing reality, countless minds synchronize responsibility. A distributed existence where every universe accepts limited interaction rules preventing incursions. Doom becomes the architect rather than the warden, and his face resembling Tony becomes symbolic closure. Not a replacement, not a variant, but evolution of Stark's legacy from individual hero to collective guardianship. He stops being a god and becomes a guide. Battleworld dissolves into separated universes that now coexist safely. Doom didn't lose. He learned protection cannot exist without trust. The Avengers didn't win. They accepted responsibility beyond their world. The multiverse survives not through domination, but cooperation. So when people ask why Doom looks like Tony, I think the answer won't be shock value. It will be thematic. He represents what Tony might become if he tried to save everyone forever instead of trusting others to carry the future. A mirror showing the danger of perfect protection. And Battleworld becomes the warning, safety without freedom is just a beautiful prison.